think about one of the harshest aspects of getting generational growth, it is about understanding the patterns of the past, maybe even the patterns that were thrust upon you from other generations, and kind of aggressively facing those, and how to create economies of scale, both in life and in career and business. And so the easiest starting off point is who you surround yourself with.
I think right now what I'm focusing on is building network of people who want to continue to expand.
It's like being able to connect to someone in one area authentically.
Yeah.
But then learning from them in a different area that you never would have experienced.
You were made to do more in life than just pay bills and get by. The key to even more success? Get your assets together. With generational growth, we're not just talking about wealth. This is about building your version of an incredible life in every area that truly matters: mind, body, business, and self-care. What if I told you there's a life-changing opportunity to help yourself, even now and especially now? I'm KK Hart, an expert on being both well and wealthy. I've spent decades building what's basically my own investment fund, emphasis on fun, acquiring and growing unique brands with capital, partnerships, and strategic support. I'm here to empower you to go further faster with an anti-hustle, no burnout path to getting richer and more financially fit for investing, acquisition, and growing everything you own. Let's grow.
So let's talk about creating economies of scale with more than just money, with your network, with your partnerships, with your collaborations, like really figuring out that gasoline on the fire, so to speak, to help you get further faster. As I talked about before, your network is your net worth, but also our personal development is the one thing that keeps us from that area of success that we really want. So I thought it was important to really talk about how to create economies of scale, both in life and in career and business. And so the easiest starting off point is who you surround yourself with. If you tell me how you treat your mind, your body, and your relationships, I can pretty much tell you where you're headed in life. And while I hate that that's true, it really is.
It does sound harsh.
But it is reality in a lot of ways. So when I think about being really intentional with my network, this is where kind of who I spend the most amount of time with really does influence me. And one of my unlocks, and when I think about one of the harshest aspects of getting generational growth, it is about understanding the patterns of the past, maybe even the patterns that were thrust upon you from other generations, and kind of aggressively facing those. And so for me, obviously that pattern of divorce was really big.
Yeah.
And also that really unhealthy kind of codependent fixer type of pattern that I saw in relationships time and time again, both for myself and kind of, in a family lineage and also with those I surrounded myself with. So those were like massive areas of opportunity and areas to optimize that I focused on alongside wealth.
Yeah.
That looking back was really a game changer for me. So let me give you some ideas of things that I think about. So I had a mentor that I was assigned from like a professional networking group. And when I look back at what he did for me, he really was more like a father figure. He was a professional mentor, but he really represented stability for me. He represented someone who really cared about my growth. And actually, he did not have a daughter. So I think in a lot of ways, he thought of me as his brown mixed race daughter. And he wanted better for me in ways that I always wondered what was in it for him.
Yeah.
But I think one thing I learned from him was this idea of mentorship and the idea of reverse mentorship, which is like, how can I learn from even those who would be considered peers or those who are younger than me? Like there's something you said about being childlike as one of your goals, like being able to pursue your dreams as if you were a child.
Yeah.
And I see that almost like a reverse mentorship where it's like, wow, okay, let me learn from you.
Yeah.
Next generation, because I think hustle culture is so firmly ingrained in my generational patterns, both familial and experiential, and the way the world has kind of shaped that thinking, that it took a long time for me to want to get off the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
no matter what happened to my success or my career.
I've never wanted to be on the hamster wheel.
See? And there's
one
the
day.
difference. That's the difference in the generations for you. So, I think about being really intentional with network. For me, I did something really crazy. I went and bought a condo in a place where I knew there were people that I wanted to end up like and to end up getting to know. And that was, it was not a risky financial bet for me. I had already owned a house for 13 years, kept that house, turned it into an income property. So there was a tax benefit there. And then went ahead and bought this condo as like my, getting back to me pad.
Yeah.
And that to this day, when I dream, that is my happy place in my dreams.
Oh,
It's crazy. What I think about in that experience was immersing myself in the success I wanted. And it was more than just money. Again, it was people.
Yeah.
It was culture. It was community. It was financial, but it was also purpose. Like everyone there had a similar purpose. They had gotten to some level of success in order to live there.
Yeah.
But they were figuring out their next step. So I have, decade-long friendships from living in that building and kind of using that as an investment in myself, but also like figuring out the ways that I wanted to interact with people. So we had like community events, throw these sick parties on the roof, and I would take those parties as opportunities to get to know neighbors like I always see on the elevator and like never talk to. So like using that as a springboard to like setting down and having a coffee conversation or a discovery call and thinking about how I could support them in their business or what they were doing with their career, answer questions about my own businesses because I owned a number of local businesses at the time.
Yeah.
So that was my approach to network.
And now, so I think this is where you and me differ the most, is that I think I am far more introverted than you.
Fair.
Just naturally. I actively work against it sometimes because it's not always helpful. Even just like being an extrovert all the time isn't always helpful.
Agree.
But so your version of networking was to just go up to people that you see in your daily life and get to know more about them because you found them interesting.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to someone who that terrifies?
Oh, the riches are still in the niches. I would stick with professional groups, personal groups that are very specific on one interest. So for instance, I actually started doubling down on entrepreneurship even more at that time. So that was right after my first 2 businesses that I acquired, and I quickly acquired 2 more to create that network of studios that I had. And started going to professional groups that were kind of really all about growing a business. And so I made friends that were only friends in that area.
I think that's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we had the thing we were going to talk about.
Yeah. Because that to me is the scarier part is that I'm like, well, I don't know you. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you come from. I may be interested in you, but I also like don't know much about you and I
Right.
don't know how to start a conversation from nothing.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it has been very helpful to have a very specific space that I go to occupy and to socialize in.
Yeah.
Because then I know everyone there at least
That's
has
right.
one thing in common we can talk about.
That.
Yeah.
And that, you'd be surprised. I have found that the people I have the most in common with that I don't actually know, like when I meet them and I'm like, wow, we have so much in common. There was like one anchor thing. There was one like entry point to what got us talking that made us realize we had this, and this in common. That's why I call it economy of scale. It is no different than when I buy businesses. I'm thinking about the strengths that I can leverage from the other businesses and my other skill sets. So for instance, it may not all look the same. I mean, I own digital assets, physical assets, brick and mortar, product businesses, service businesses. There's a real financial benefit to that because like in some economies, maybe product businesses are more challenging and service businesses are more cash flowing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like being able to be B2B, so business to business versus direct to consumer. There's like offsets and ebbs and flows to each of those.
Sure.
Here's how I see it with network. It's like being able to connect to someone in one area authentically.
Yeah.
But then learning from them in a different area that you never would have experienced because you wouldn't have known that about them.
Yeah.
And realizing you have a lot more in common than you realized, or that you gave credit to, I should say. So when I think about how that shifts your network, this is where I think being very intentional with who you want to surround yourself with can really be an unlock, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think intentionality is not the same as like exclusivity. It
No.
does breed exclusivity, I think, when you
Sure.
have an intention, because just naturally there are going to be some people who fall away if they can't help you reach that intention that you have. It doesn't mean you can't connect with those people,
Sure.
but like if you have a specific thing in mind, a specific handful of people may be able to help you with that. But I think when I think about networking and when I have thought about networking, the thing that made it feel so gross to me was that it always felt like I was trying to make these fake attachments to people in order to like move myself forward. And that just felt bad. I was like, so it's in a place where I go to where everyone's trying to use each other? That sounds awful.
Yeah.
But I think like, you know, bringing the point of like authenticity into it, of like, you know, you could go to a networking event and not connect to anyone. And that is fine.
Totally okay. Probably
Because if you were
normal.
to inauthentically connect with that person, then the growth is also going to be inauthentic and it's
Yeah.
going to feel bad and weird and gross.
Yeah. I so believe in collaboration over competition.
Yes.
There's always something you can learn. But I think being intentional doesn't have to be ick. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be exclusive.
No.
It could be that you are thinking really clearly about the next chapter.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're in rooms that can kind of intentionalize that for you. And that the goal is not always something tangible and may not be something that you cash in on for forever.
Yeah.
Sometimes that network is someone who is just like an ear to talk to.
And I will say that sometimes, like, the thing that I think is gross to say, or like that will sound like I'm trying to use someone, is actually a really normal question to
Absolutely.
ask. Like recently, when I got back into auditioning for acting roles, I knew I had some friends who were directors or actors themselves, either in film or on the stage. And I let them know, like, hey, I'm going to go back to auditioning. If you have anything to throw my way, just like, let me know. And both of them were like, oh my God, I have so many things. And I booked like 2 gigs just from having those conversations with those people. But I was so scared to have that interaction with them. So I was like, they're just going to think that like I'm using them for their network. But they
Sure.
were excited to invite me into that network, which was not a response that I was thinking was going to happen.
At first, that's how I felt. That actually is not shocking to me.
Yeah.
The intention of really good strategic collaboration is power, collective power.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is that I need to be in those rooms because, one, I need people to see what maybe not the norm looks like at this level. 2, there's someone there that I need to tell my story to. And someone needs to hear that you can come from nothing and be self-made and have a really good life. They need to hear you can be through a divorce at a young age. They need to hear that you can have like what I would consider, you know, issues with addiction or addictive tendencies. You know, I treat my workaholism like it's an addiction.
Yeah.
Because it is. It's codependency. It's just a way of me getting my needs met in an unhealthy way. And then there is this really interesting sweet spot where when you're playing the long game with these relationships, you're getting so much out of them because you're not looking for a tangible outcome. You're not going to an event and saying, I need to make my money back on this event with like insert reason here, a client, an opportunity, a paycheck. And that is just like the power of collaboration when you are not approaching it that way. I will say now that I'm in those circles, it is the thing the wealthy do really well. It's like they love to collaborate and partner.
Yeah.
And I think it seems really easy when you're not in that position, but actually I would think of it differently. It's like in order to get to that position, you need to figure out healthy ways to collaborate and partner.
And I think that people get it wrong a lot, myself included, where like when you are looking to collaborate with people, I think the thing that always made me feel kind of weird, specifically from an arts perspective, because that's the background that I have, but it always felt kind of strange when like you would only keep around the people that you thought were going to be the most successful purely because you thought they were going to have success they could hand back to you.
Oh, interesting.
And that always felt like gross to me. I think people see their peers a lot as competition rather than fellow collaborators.
Yes.
Because they think that like, oh, if I can beat down the best person in this group, then I'm better than them and then I will soar ahead of them. But it's like, who's going to be with you when you're there? Like if the other best performer in your friend group is your reader for auditions and you fuck them over, who's going to read with you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That is so interesting you say that. There's a phrase I held on to for way too long, which is it's lonely at the top.
Yeah.
It's only lonely if you let it be.
Yeah.
That
Doesn't have
to
to
me, it does not have to be. And I guess I'm a gangster rapper because everything has to rhyme. But it's time. Okay, just going. But it's really a different way of thinking where it's like, I don't have to have an ulterior motive for every relationship.
Yeah.
Some friendships are just meant to be for a finite period of time. I try to tell the kids this now a lot. I'm trying to pass down a different level of generational wisdom, right? With you, it's financial, it's growth oriented. I think with the younger ones, it's about kind of really understanding what the real world is like. And I think we always have this mindset that everything has to be forever. So it's like, oh, I have to have this type of relationship forever or this person in my life forever. And some people just meet a purpose.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just proximity friends or they're a relationship that's a stepping stone to get to the next relationship. There's something you needed to learn about yourself. This is going to sound like such an aside, but there's a concept when you're investing in businesses called deal flow. You ever heard of it? So deal flow is the access to pretty much all the deals so that you can diversify your risk. If you have more access to deal flow, then you have a better upside, almost always, because again, putting everything into one asset is not usually the area of opportunity that brings the most success.
For sure.
So deal flow in business is like a no-brainer. It's like, I need to stack the deck. I need to look at businesses in these, core areas that I am interested in. They need to have this level of, success. So maybe they need to all be producing a certain amount of money every year or every month as a metric. And so deal flow is not considered negative, and it's only advantageous. It's like everything you do is about kind of leveraging those different opportunities and figuring out like where's the sweet spot for inbound and then like, how do you share that out? Sometimes you'll get across a deal and you'll say, okay, well, that's not for me. I don't invest in insert thing, but let me introduce you to someone that's really important too. They call it an intro. It's like such a big deal on the venture side and in the private investment world. That is exactly what we should be doing in our personal lives as well.
And I think if we weren't doing that on the business side of things and the financial side of things, we would call that a scarcity mindset. But when we don't do that in personal growth, in personal areas and interpersonal relationships, we call it loyalty. And I think that's just very indicative of like, we all think we just need like this one person or this one friend or like this one job. And we can prove that we are loyal, reliable individuals through that one relationship. But I actually think you're a lot more reliable, or I'm more willing to rely on you if you are there for a multitude of people.
You totally got me. That is so true.
Yeah.
There's a greater value in more, being better. And yet we're almost taught on the personal side
that it's just a singular thing.
Yeah. I would even say, I'll go even deeper now. I've been with my husband for almost a decade. Whoa. Longest relationship of my life. And so not normal for the people I surrounded myself with. And do you know some of the best advice I was ever given, which is like, this person can't be your everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it was earth shattering to me. I need a deal flow for that too. You know what I mean?
I would say that I have had that mindset for a really long time, sometimes to an unhealthy extent.
Same.
But the amount of times like I've said that to like a friend or a romantic partner and it was taken so negatively. And I was like, but if you were my everything, like that would be an incredibly unhealthy relationship and you would feel the burden of that.
The pressure of that.
Like that would also wreck this relationship.
100%. And we would never do that if it was a business.
Yes.
We would never be like, oh yeah, you should absolutely put every dollar that you own into this
like,
one
that's
thing.
So stupid.
That sounds risky.
Yeah.
You should probably think about that.
But when we have maybe like a partner who like you have a very good relationship with, but has maybe like a multitude of other people that they love and they invest in their life, it's really easy to be like, but I'm your partner.
Right.
Why can't you invest more in me?
Yeah.
But it's like, well, they can't just invest in you because that's a really risk-averse investment for them.
Absolutely.
You may be like a lifetime partner, but it is unhealthy for them to just invest in you alone. And you can view any sort of relationship like that because if you're relying on one person for all your connections or all your
needs in general,
all your needs, all your financial advice, whatever, then if that relationship goes awry, so does every other facet of your life that was grown through that relationship.
Yeah. So this is where I think that was such an unlock for me. And then, with my husband, we went even further. We decided to approach our relationship as a partnership. And so again, when I think about this totally applies to business, personal pleasure, everything in between. We think of the benefits and the things that we struggle with as our own individual causes. So it's almost like when you go into a partnership in business, you usually have like a partnership agreement. Or if you invest in a business, there is like a agreement that you sign to, like what are the expectations, what are the things you do, what are the things they do, because there's multiple people involved. I've never seen a business agreement that says this one person does everything.
Never.
Ever.
That would be awful.
But we approach our interpersonal relationships
just like that
way.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you need to meet this need, this need, this need. Actually, now that I think about it, all of them.
All of them
and
for
just
you.
dump it on them.
Yeah.
And I think when we thought of ourselves as a partnership, which was very early on in our relationship, it allowed us to really breathe and say, okay, so if you need to call someone because you're angry about this thing that happened at work, maybe I'm not that person for you.
Sure.
And he wasn't at first. He's not as empathetic, to be honest. So for him, it was not exactly a strength. So I have my girlfriends for that. I have you for that.
Or sometimes like what people bring to the table are like, I'm going to give you cold hard advice. Or I'm going to tell you exactly what you should do. And what you want in that moment is someone to be like,
hug.
Yeah, girl, you're right. Get them.
I want
and that's not the same.
Blanket.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think it's just such an interesting way to approach our network, which is to think that this one friend is going to carry us through everything,
right?
Personal and professional, or this one connection is going to get us everything from a business perspective. And actually where I'm growing now faster is that I have this network that has come together so beautifully, and we have one core value. We are ambitious. We are ruthless about partnership and collaboration.
Yeah.
And yes, we are successful, but we don't chase success.
Yeah.
So anytime I meet someone who looks that part, acts that part, is that part, we are elevating each other in exponential ways.
Yeah.
All from this concept of like every one person can't do everything.
And I think that also kind of goes back to what we were talking about like having a goal, about having like a North Star, about having the thing that drives you towards what you want. Like, what are you working towards? And I think when you have that, then you know what to look for in other people. So like, I think right now, like my biggest thing is that like, I don't want to surround myself with people who are comfortable with stepping on others to get ahead.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that but you would be surprised. I've seen that so often to people who call each other friends, where like behind their back, they're doing things that are absolutely wrecking the other person. And then that person is getting wrecked. And the person that wrecked them is like, oh, I'm so sorry that's happening to you.
Oh my gosh, I see this all the time in business.
And I'm like, oh, but you did it. And I know you did it.
100%. I see this in business. Yes. Business takes on a certain amount of capital. They start running that shit to the ground. And then at the end, the bankruptcy filing comes out, or we have to close our doors, or close our digital doors, email comes out, and everybody's shocked because it's like, but you didn't have to go that route.
And I think for a long time, I saw that kind of behavior, like that ruthless determination, as a good thing.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think for a while, I did need to think of myself over everyone else around me in order to perpetuate myself forward.
That's called healthy boundaries.
Yeah, which I think can really easily get into like being selfish. But I think where you go into like the selfish territory, like selfish in a negative way, not in a positive way, is when you don't have to do that in order to get what you need out of your workplace, or out of your money, or out of your personal growth. When you don't have to put yourself first all the time, when you can think about others and you choose not to, then I know that you're someone I need to take a step back from.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also, that would be pulling out a part of myself that I'm willing to let go of.
This is
that I don't need
so
anymore.
True, and so related to how I built my investment fund, right? Is that I took the things that I knew I had brought to the table as strengths. Some of those are assets, some of those are intellectual property, some of those are customer lists, some of those are certain types of target clients that I love to attract. And I put all of that in like an ecosystem. And if it doesn't meet that ecosystem, I don't buy the business, I don't invest.
Yeah.
But what that also freed me up to do is find all the opportunities that actually made sense for those things. It sounds limiting, but it actually was what made me flourish.
Yes, and I think people think like if they have all of these desires that they need out of other people or whatever businesses they're trying to invest in, or whatever they see for their life, they have these standards. I think the fear is that your standards will be too high and you'll never attain them, you'll never find them, and you'll limit yourself. But I think it's sort of like I forget what the exact phenomena is, but do you know, like when you're going out and you're looking for the color yellow, you'll just see a bunch of
Perceptual salience.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You'll just see a bunch of things that are yellow because you
Behaviorist.
set the intention of finding yellow things.
Yeah.
And so I think if you set your intention of finding all of these things that meet all of these standards that you currently think are unattainable, you'll find them because that's what you're training your brain to look for.
Yeah, let me tell you about the last two things I did this with on a tangible level. So the last business acquisition I did, I was a client of the company, and then I became the advisor because I kept raising my hand and saying, hey, like I'm really knowledgeable and you guys don't seem to really understand certain aspects of the business. And eventually that turned into ownership. And that was a cool opportunity. I was chosen out of 5 different people who tried to acquire the business. And it was incubated for tens of millions of dollars, and I bought it for just under $1 million cash. And the business is about 4 times more successful from a profitability perspective than the prior owners. And the reason we got there so quickly is this mindset of like knowing exactly what the deal needed to be, knowing exactly who the customer was, being the customer myself, and then bringing more things to that customer faster and more efficiently.
Yeah.
So when I think about network and collaboration and partnership, the thing I never thought of is that acquiring that business actually then led to more investment deals.
Yeah.
It led to more friends to support. It led to more opportunities to utilize aspects of every business I've owned or supported or invested in different ways, like being a consultant. There's a network effect to all of this that we're not often thinking about. I think people talk about network effect and they think about like masterminds and gurus.
Sure.
And something I've tried to shy away from for a really long time was the idea of doing something like that. Where I feel I'm led right now is about apprenticeship. So really going into the trenches. You know, I'm known to roll up my sleeves. I'm not just a capital investor. I'm not just somebody who likes to sit and make passive income. I like to work for my money.
Yeah.
And I like to work to help other people make their money. It is the thing that has made me so well known.
Yeah.
And the area of opportunity that I see right now is there's not a lot of people who are willing to do that or have the knowledge or skill to do that.
Sure.
And that is expanding my network so much faster. It is expanding my wealth and my ability to make money in ways that I never thought about. So I have no shade on masterminds and groups and that kind of stuff, but I do think there's something about getting in those rooms as long as there's tangible outcomes. And my favorite way to do that right now is apprenticeships. Like sometimes, yes, you can't be what you can't see, but you also need the minutia. You need help in the diligence. You need someone who can roll up their sleeves and say, actually, I've done this before and I'm going to walk through it with you, instead of like, you know, what most people think of as like an expert who just kind of like gurutizes everything for you. Like, you know, just gives you all the affirmations or gives you a long list of things to do. I really pride myself on allowing someone to apprentice at a level that they feel fully supported, you know, A to Z on every aspect of business.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting landing spot for us because when I think about kind of, we're better together always.
Sure.
What are you calling in right now with regards to your network, your collaborations, your partnerships? Like, what do you want out of your future?
Well, damn.
Throw it out there.
I think right now what I'm focusing on is building a network of people who want to continue to expand. It's like, I'm not interested in joining a clique. I'm also not interested in having everyone that I know each other. I think it's fine if I exist in different groups with different people. But I think what I'm working towards is having, I think what you were talking about, is like a bunch of different people for a bunch of different things. Like my dance teacher all the time always says that it's, every time she talks to me, I'm like, oh, I know a guy who can do that. I'll send him your way. And she's like, how do you know all of these people for all of these things? Like, she needed like a carpenter. And I was like, oh, like a chef's dad that I know. Like his dad was a carpenter, like a manager of mine. Like he used to work in carpentry. I'll see if he can help you or whatever. And I think I just want to be the person who like knows a guy. And I am working towards just like being interested in what other people have to bring to the table, not necessarily like for me, but just to like be curious about them and to see if there's something there that I'm either interested in or we can mutually benefit from, or I just admire. And so not like necessarily building towards one specific thing, But I'm just curious about like all the different types of people that are out there and how many I can form a connection to.
I love that. I think that is the approach that gets you to even greater success. So if your network is your net worth and there's power in partnership and collaboration, then you are setting yourself up for true generational growth.
Yeah.
It goes beyond wealth. It goes beyond just assets. It has to do with loving what you do and how you did it to get there.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about that soon.
Thanks for joining us. Now go out there and turn your success into action. Generational growth is about helping you in every area that matters: mind, body, business, and self-care. Share this episode on social media and LinkedIn, and feel free to send us where you feel strong and where you need support.
Please note, this content is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered financial or professional advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Some of the products and services mentioned may involve financial compensation or partnerships.